What is your advice? Trump is about to go on stage, but he says, I can't go on stage yet till I talk to the Gorka man. What is your advice to Donald Trump tonight?
One of them, thanks to Lieutenant Governor Daniel Patrick of Texas, and I forwarded this to the team at Mar-a-Lago, is the illegal immigration, the invasion of the border will come up. And today will be the funeral of Jocelyn Nungare, the 12-year-old who was brutally raped and then murdered and thrown into a creek. He needs to leverage that. And, the day of the funeral of that 12-year-old who was wearing an ice ankle monitor, he needs to, ask Biden whether he knows her mother's name, whether he can pronounce Laken Riley's name properly, and the name of the mother of 5 in Maryland who was also raped and murdered by illegals. So I think Jocelyn, in Jocelyn's honor, we play hardball today in front of Biden.
How do you advise Trump to present what you just said there in a way that doesn't come across as mean or bullying of an old man or unpresidential?
Yeah, this is what I've been thinking about for a few days now. Look, if it were me debating, you know what I'm like. It would be like take no prisoners and just full force against that decrepit, corrupt man. But that's fun. But how do you win elections? The base is the base. They're not going anywhere. We've got Black America, Hispanic America coming over to President Trump. So I think, it pains me to say this, but I think we have to play to the middle. We have to play to the independents, the convincibles. So it's not Gorka style, super aggressive. It's measured, it's presidential, but it leverages, emotional intelligence. I mean, really, we've got to talk about the fact that 12-year-old young girls are being raped and murdered. If the details of her body and the bodies of the rapists, one of whom had a bite mark on his body because she was resisting after they'd tied up her feet and her hands. Just be very factual and talk about the fact that this could be your daughter, your niece, this could be your granddaughter. And these are people who shouldn't be here. They're here because Biden and Mayorkas let them in, and it must stop. It must stop. And you are on the side of those who are raping and killing innocent American girls. It's just keep it very calm, keep it very cool, keep it presidential, and just send a message that this country is being destroyed by those who are in power, starting with Joe Biden.
You can keep it pithy, too. You don't even need to use the whole 2 minutes. We talked about some of the issues and then some of the rebuttals that Biden's going to bring up tonight. So we talked about abortion and then what Biden's going to say about that. And we talked about the economy and how Biden's going to come back with a couple numbers. What are you talking about? Black unemployment rate's so low and all these jobs were created, 11 million, whatever. All these made-up numbers that don't mean anything. The border is a tough one. I was stuck on an airplane yesterday, Dr. Gorka, so I tuned into MSNBC and watched Nancy Pelosi. And Nancy Pelosi said the border we've had a 40% decrease in the number of people coming across illegally since he signed his tough executive action a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So that's going to be his line on the border. Things are getting better. There was a big problem. And you know what, Dr. Gorka? It was a problem around the world. There's billions of people migrating around the world. And we're not immune from these global forces that are occurring. And we did the best we could. And it would be a lot worse if I weren't president. We've done it very humanely. And I've taken tougher action since, and we've already seen a 40% drop. That's what he's going to say tonight. What do you think about that answer?
Well, it's a lie. That's an absolute lie. We're not talking about 40% drop of people who haven't cleared themselves through the CBP1 app. I mean, the thing about the border that is not understood, and when Alejandro Mayorkas says, oh, we've screened them. No, you haven't screened anybody. If you're an illegal from Afghanistan to China, you sit in Mexico, you download the CBP1 app that we paid for, and you clear yourself. You fill in on the app, my name is Mickey Mouse, and I'm an asylum seeker and I'm not a terrorist, and you cross the border and you show your own pre-registration to the officer of CBP, and then you are let into the country. That's the insanity of what we're talking about, right? You're still an illegal because that way of coming into the country is in contravention of all immigration law. You can't clear yourself and say, "Hi, my name's Mickey Mouse, I'm not a member of ISIS." That's what the president has to, be very clear about. Clearing yourself on an app American taxpayers paid for doesn't mean you're not a terrorist or a rapist or a murderer. You've got to explain these things, and, as much as you can before CNN shuts your mic off.
One issue tonight, I'm curious how Trump will handle, because surely will come up, is January 6th. How would you recommend when Biden talks about the threat to democracy and you stirred up the crowd and just almost tore America asunder? What would you recommend he respond to January 6th?
In most of these cases, whether it's abortion, January 6th, or anything else, the best thing is just to factually illuminate what the other side is doing. All right? So with regards to January 6th, you say, so what is this about January the 6th that we can't have the director of the FBI under sworn testimony tell us how many FBI assets were undercover provocateurs on that day? I mean, Christopher Wray to this day cannot answer that question. Or why is it that the man, the U.S. attorney for the district, has made sure that there are terrorist enhancements for people who trespassed, has given a more than 22-year custodial sentence for an individual who wasn't even in Washington, D.C. on that day, but has refused to prosecute 7 out of 10 felonies in D.C. that have nothing to do with Washington, with what happened on January the 6th. Why is it that the nation's capital had 900 carjackings last year? Why is Joe Biden not concerned with that? You've got to flip it always and get him on the defensive, because, look, he's going to be pumped up with, you name it. I mean, whether it's Mountain Dew or whether it's speed or, Hunter's little baggie of Coke, it will be easy to trigger him, because deep down he's what? He is a vicious, angry, nasty man. So throw things back calmly, factually, in ways that he will not be able to calmly respond. That's my advice. Like abortion. I mean, all the time I get, it's now that my wife is in leadership position here in Virginia for the GOP, we get these people say, what do we say about abortion? Do we just avoid it? Do we run from it? I said, what do you mean run from it? Embrace it. President Trump has done exactly what the Republic requires. Thanks to his amazing justices, Ann, Thomas, and Alito, the issue has been thrown back to the states, where it is decided by the people. We are a republic of states. So that's where it should be. On the obverse, we have governors, Democrats, who are saying you should be able to abort a child after it has been born. That's called infanticide. So you flip it into a position where the other side's factual stance is utterly indefensible, and Biden will stutter, will get angry, and will lose all his composure.
It is talking with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Of course, it is a three-way fight tonight with Tapper and Bash. Can you give us some insight into these two? We went over some details, some specifics of things they've done over the years, and they're just disgust of Donald Trump. There's some psychologist, some marriage counselor guy or whatever years ago who said disgust is the emotion that once particularly a woman has towards her husband, there's no going back. You just disgust, once you hit it, it's like an irredeemable situation. And Bash in particular, but Tapper too, they have disgust of that man up there, Donald J. Trump.
Yeah,
how bad could it be tonight?
I can't read Jake because I have a phone call I recorded with him where he completely lost it, and he knows he crossed the line. I have yet to release that phone call, but Jakey, I've got it. I don't know what motivates him, because twice a decade he'll say something reasonable, but then the rest of the time he's just a complete whore for the Democrats, who he worked for, by the way. So, he's a congressional staffer before he became a quote-unquote journalist. And this is the guy who does segments on how President Trump is using Hitler's verbiage. Fascism is here in America. I mean, he's just a lunatic. What's the 11-minute interview I did with him? I think I just posted it yesterday when I was in the White House. The guy pretends to be a journalist. He's just a Democrat whore. When it comes to Dana Bash, I mean, he shouldn't do it, but it would just be delightful to ask Dana if the president said, Dana, your husband had no background in intelligence, but was made chief of staff of the CIA by Obama, and he's one of the signatories of the 51 intel authorities who said the Hunter Biden laptop isn't real. An information operation that was run by Antony Blinken, for which he was rewarded with the Secretary of State position after the election, after the suppression of that information, an information op, which, by the way, was cleared by the CIA and was signed by people who we now know had not only their clearances, but two of them, Mike Norrell and the former Inspector General of the CIA, were still on the CIA payroll with green card access to the Langley headquarters. Could you explain your credentials for hosting this debate? That would be fun. That's what Gorka would do, but I'm not, a natural U.S.-born citizen, and I'm not running for the presidency, but,
I love any
the co-host husband is part of how they stole the election. Don't talk to me about, voting machines and pristine ballots and Zuckerberg's drop boxes, when you know that double digits of Democrats would not have voted. According to the polling, they say, I would not have voted for Biden if I had known the Hunter Biden laptop was real. And then you have 51 former and serving CIA operatives say, it's Russian disinformation, and it's coordinated by Antony Blinken, and Gina Haspel, the then director of the CIA, knew about it. That's how they stole the 2020 election.